Hey folks, I'm Mr. Rembrandt and this is Mr. Rembrandt. So I just want to give a recap on a current event, the George Kambosos versus Teofimo Lopez fight that just happened in the Hulu Center, Madison Square Garden, not that 2 days ago, and I was there in New York when it happened. So, as we know, Kambosos wins.
WBO, WBA, WBC franchise, and Ring Magazine lightweight champion of the world, George Ferocious Kambosos.
And my response to that as Kambosos wins is people who know me, who are in my close circle, and people on this channel know that I love boxing and I talk about boxing pretty often. When it comes to me talking about sports, in which this podcast is not, this channel is not really about sports, you will see me mention MMA, combat sports, and boxing some of the time. As a result of that, I'm going to recap what happened recently, in the last fight that happened. So why am I talking about this? Because Teofimo was the favorite to win the fight. Kambosos was the underdog, and he was looked at as a person who was supposedly, by Teofimo's remarks, was going to get knocked out by the first round. Obviously, that didn't happen. To spin the events, it was interesting to see that actually Kambosos is the one who put Lopez down in the first round.
Firefight with his opponent.
Oh, what a right hand from George Kambosos!
Now, I didn't bet on this fight. Why didn't I bet on this fight? I didn't bet on this fight because the betting odds were so erratic, in my opinion, that it just didn't make sense to bet. Because people would say, well, why would I not if I thought Kambosos had a high opportunity and Teofimo was the favorite? Because when doing an analysis on betting, for example, you have to take into consideration that the betting lines are generally supposed to and usually are right. So the fact that Teofimo was a 10-1, even some platforms had him as a 13-1 favorite to win, it made me second guess my opinion in the fight, in which I thought George Kambosos was a 50-50 odd. Now, obviously, I wish I would have betted because I would have been able to show and prove. But at the end of the day, I always believed that fight was a 50-50 fight. I thought and believed that going into the fight, there was a high opportunity that Teofimo would lose and Kambosos would get a future chance at Lomachenko, and Lomachenko would get a chance to redeem himself. Now, 50% of what I think in that situation has occurred. Kambosos won. Who he'll fight in the future, we don't know yet. There's been talks that Kambosos might fight Devin Haney. We'll see. Devin Haney is the WBC champ. Kambosos is the WBC franchise champ, which makes him undisputed for WBO, IBF, and WBA, all 4 belts across the board. Now, why did I believe that Kambosos had a chance? Okay, one is I'm a boxing connoisseur. I watch a lot of boxing and I know a lot of boxers. People who know me, I've been doing Muay Thai on and off 6 years straight. I am a decent Muay Thai fighter. I watch Muay Thai, kickboxing, boxing, MMA, and I love combat sports. And obviously, I make wagers on them. At the end of the day, when I saw Kambosos, for example, in his journey going upwards up the ranking system, which I followed very closely, I saw that he was a hot prospect. When Kambosos fought Kwame Bala, and I had no expectations of him, I was just learning him, thought it was an excellent fight. When Kambosos fought Brandon O, I thought that was an excellent fight. And then I've been watching Kambosos ever since then. Then as Kambosos made his way upward, he fought Mickey Bay and Lee Shelby. So those were his biggest fights of his career up until that point. So then when he springed his way into Teofimo, I said it was a 50-50 chance. Well, some will say, well, why? Because Teofimo was ranked pound for pound and he beat Lomachenko. Okay, so I'll break that down really quick. In some athletes' careers, they earn it the long way, they earn it the hard way. In some athletes' careers, they have a lot of things fall in place perfectly for them to get where they're at. When it comes to Teofimo Lopez, there were too many things that fell in place for Teofimo Lopez that made it more so that, for example, Lomachenko lost the belt instead of Lopez winning the belt in my case. Now, I give credit where credit's due. Teofimo Lopez won. In my aspect, in Teddy Atlas' aspect, we had it as a draw. I had it as a draw, we had it as a draw.
114, a draw.
But I digress. But at the end of the day, the fact that Teofimo won on scorecards doesn't bother me, even though some of the scorecards were skewed. Teofimo did not impress me in that fight. Anybody who watched that fight knew that there was a problem with Lomachenko because Lomachenko didn't even start throwing punches until the 6th round. So everybody knew there was absolutely positively something wrong with Lomachenko. Come to find out, Lomachenko's shoulder was not in proper placement. He had to go to the USADA before the boxing match, get injections to kill the pain. And then right after the fight, he had to get surgery to fix the shoulder, in which they had to make several incisions into his shoulder and reattach or fix the attachment in his shoulder. Teofimo, taking my hat off, Lomachenko, taking my hat off, made no excuses. But Lopez barely won on a 50% Lomachenko. Right after this fight, Lomachenko fought Nakatani, which Lopez had problems with, and destroyed Nakatani. Coming up, he's going to fight Comey, which Teofimo knocked out Comey for the belt, IBF belt, a couple years ago. I will be in New York for that one as well. I will be there at the Lomachenko-Comey fight. I'll be sitting somewhere between 1 to 4 rows. If you see me, say, "Hey, Mr. Rembrandt." But that is my breakdown. More so, Teofimo was Lomachenko lost the belt rather more so than Teofimo just took it from him. The situation fell into place for Teofimo to win that belt. There was an opportunity at hand, and he carpe diemed. Okay, so I knew that Kambosos was a dog, and he was going to bring it. And we really didn't know much about Teofimo, in my opinion, because the fact that you fought Richard Comey for the IBF, and you laid him with a shot that put him out in the first round doesn't tell me much about your boxing ability. And the fact that you knocked out a lot of your top competitors with one punch doesn't, again, tell me a lot about your boxing ability when you have to box. Because when you do box, you box Nakatani, you won pretty much all the rounds, but you didn't look that great, as we know. Anytime Lomachenko boxes, he looks great. Whether he's knocking somebody out or not, he dances around you for rounds. And he destroyed Nakatani. So, with that said, Teofimo Lopez didn't convince me as a top pound-for-pound athlete. To name him or put him aside, the likes of Canelo, Crawford, Lomachenko, Usyk, all of these guys was absolutely positively ridiculous in my opinion. He got the luck of the draw. Not saying he's not good, not saying that he might not be great in the future, but he's not to be mentioned with those individuals. So with that said, what is the future for Kambosos? So now that Kambosos won, and I predicted it was a 50-50 fight, hopefully most of you will be listening more to what I have to say and stop listening to a lot of these pundits, because a lot of things were learned from that fight from other people. I didn't learn much because I figured it would happen something like this. But there's some learning to do with other people as far as how they view Teofimo. Show the clip.
Teo doesn't have a lot of nuance to his game, and he gets tagged a lot. What makes him special isn't his boxing ability, it's his timing, speed, power, and athleticism. He's not too fundamentally sound. I'm learning that. I thought that was the case until he beat Lomachenko. I think we gave him a little bit too much credit at that point. But I'm learning that. But who knows? He may have just been weight trained. You know, let's relax. Let's see Teofimo Lopez again.
Now, with that said, hopefully Kambosos will fight Lomachenko in the near future. People are talking about Kambosos should fight Devin Haney to kind of settle the score, and that's all fine and dandy, and that's cool and that's great. But as we know, for example, it's kind of funny because it's like Lomachenko wasn't even mentioned as a possible opponent for Kambosos, which is incredible because he's still ranked top 5. He's still ranked top pound for pound. Not only that, when it comes to Lomachenko, when it comes to the WBO and the WBC, Lomachenko is still ranked first. And when it comes to the WBA, Lomachenko is ranked about 3rd or 4th. And when it comes to the the IBF, Lomachenko is ranked somewhere between 1 and 6. So BoxRanks actually has Lomachenko ranked number 1 in their opinion. So in retrospect, Lomachenko is still a top 3 guy overall. Devin Haney is not. Devin Haney was also given the belt. So Kambosos should be fighting Lomachenko if he really wants to test his skills and for really people to show where he's at boxing wise. That would actually, because Lomachenko, in my opinion, still seems to be the beacon of the 135-pound division. We don't really know how good you are in the 135-pound division, in my opinion, till you fought Lomachenko. So with that said, keep the video short. That's my overview. That's my breakdown. That's my 2 cents. And that's what I have to say for the fact that Kambosos won, and I had it a 50-50 chance. Thanks for watching this video. I'm Mr. Rembrandt, and this is Mr. Rembrandt.